Today I'm going to be talking about Honeywell's new Spyder 5 VAV controller, which is this little controller here. And so one of the things is that Honeywell has gone back to the compact format, which resembles the older XL10 Smart VAV controller. Gives you more space. Anybody that has worked with classic Spyder VAV controllers know that with the size and everything, you've always had issues with some of the enclosures that you put the controller in. You've had to take the actuator off, or you've had to be creative and maneuver the controller around in the case. So with this compact format, it makes it a lot easier and saves you a lot of space inside of your enclosure for your VAV box. One of the features of this controller here is Honeywell has actually assembled this in 3 different parts. So if you have a controller installed and your controller goes out but the actuator is still working, you can just purchase just the controller part of it. And that is basically assembled. There is one little screw that fits in the back right here that you remove, and then once you remove that, then the whole controller snaps off. Now there is a cable that's in the inside of it that actually mounts to the actuator itself with this little cable here. So it's just real easy to remove this little controller part right here. Now, Honeywell does have in the works that they have a base that they are creating for this controller here, to where you can actually use it as a standalone controller, and then actually mount your own actuator to it as well. And then it just snaps back on real easy. So today I'm going to be going over getting you guys how to start up the controller and go through the download process and everything with this through Workbench. And I'm going to share my screen here.
Damon, do you want questions as people have them, or wait till the end, or how do you want?
You can go ahead and type in questions as you guys come up with them, and I could answer them as I go, or we can wait to the end and I can answer them then.
Great. So those of you that are not familiar with Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you should have a little chat box or chat circle, and that's where you can type in questions that Damon can read and then answer them at the appropriate time. Thanks, Damon.
All right, here. So my Spyder 5 that I have here is connected to a Honeywell Spyder 50. One of the things also about these, about the new Spyder 5 controllers, is that there is no dip switches on it to set any MAC addresses, and they auto baud rate themselves just like the classic Spyders would. If you don't have a Jace or a backnet router, Spyder 50 or anything set up that is actually that you have set up your baud rate for, and you just power the controller up, the baud rate will auto default to 38.6. So just remember when you first try to connect to it, that's the baud rate speed that it will give. Now, as far as the MAC addresses, they are auto assigned, so it will assign itself the next available MAC address that is available on your network. Those can be changed, as well as the device instance number as well. So it goes to your typical BACnet network. The only difference is I can double click on BACnet, and it will take me to the Venom BACnet device manager. But what you want to do is right click, go to view, and then there's a new BACnet device manager for the IRM Spyder controller. So that's what you want to make sure you go to. With this, you can see that you have a number of different new buttons here that you can that you go through to do your discovery, create new folders, new devices, and these controllers also have clocks in them, so you can do a time sync as well. Also, under your BACnet network for the Spyder controllers, you're going to have this IRM config. If you double click on that, since you don't set your device instance number, and it actually auto assigns its own device instance number in the beginning, you can go in there and put in a min and max range of what you want those device instance numbers to be. And as you add controllers, they will add those device instance numbers on there as well. One of the things I also failed to tell you as well, these controllers are just like the old XL10 VAV smart controllers, or any of the LAN controllers that had a Neuron ID. These controllers will give you a serial number, so you can identify different controllers if you've put one more onto your network. As you can see here, when I plugged my controller up, my system did go out and discover, here's the serial number for that device. And then this is the system's default address that is in that controller at this time. So when I add it to my network, all of this will get changed over to my device instance numbers. If you have two or more, like I said, and you want to go in, you can actually come to your IRM config, right click, and then go to actions, say add serial number, and you have the ability to add your own serial numbers. You can put the device name in there, and then you can type in what you want the device instance ID to be at that time. So going back to my IRM BACnet device manager, I'm going to go ahead and hit discover. And so there's my controller right there on my network. It auto assigned MAC address number 4. So with this VAV controller, Honeywell has made 4 programs for this. 2 for the TR42s, and then they've made 2 programs for the TR23s. And so with these controllers, you cannot save your applications into your Spyder library. You will be creating templates for if you want to save your program. So these are the 4 programs here that Honeywell has created. So when I go to discover this, I can click my template wizard here, and then I can actually select the controller that I want to, template that I want to add to this controller, and then go ahead and hit add. And so, and at this time is adding the controller to your database down there, and it's also adding that template controller into it as well. Now with this controller here, you get 3 digital outputs, you get 2 analog outputs, and then you get 4 universal outputs. You have a space for your wall module. You have 24 volts in, you have a 20 volts DC out, and then your COM bus. So Honeywell has graciously, when they created this template, they've added to where they give you the device name. You can set what your duct area is, the default K factor, your min and max for cooling, min and max for heating and reheat. And then you can also expand this here and then type in a zone name if you have it. And then you hit OK. And then on this screen here, I can go in and change the name of the controller itself. And then from here, I also have the option of changing my device ID and changing the MAC address to what I want it to be. And then you just hit OK. All right, from here, the controller has been added. Everything is online. Over here, you're gonna see the RM sync status. The controller is empty right now, but in my database over here, I actually do have my program here with all my logic. So you would just click on this, go ahead and hit the teach to controller, or you can do a full teach to controller. Your initial first download may take a little bit to load. So while that's going through that, I'm going to show you a few more deals here. So under your controller for your IRM program and then the controller manager, you want to make sure you go to here. This is where you turn on the automatic teaching mode for whether if you want the controller, if you're modifying your program and you want the controller to automatically download the changes, you want to make this immediate. And then, or if you do on demand, the on demand is as you make changes, you would have to be the one to go back and reteach the controller the changes. Measurement types, you want to make sure you also set this. SI metric is metric, and then you have imperial. If you don't have this set to imperial, if you're doing Fahrenheit and everything, and that is set to metric, you can actually change all your logic blocks to say Fahrenheit. But when you physically look at your data points in your system or on a graphic, everything will be in metric or Celsius. Here you have different options for application type. This setup is for a VAV zone terminal single duct application. And there is some other applications here, but you would have to load those applications in, and then each one of them does a different configuration. Over here in your periodic program is where all your logic blocks are. One of the things is when this was actually created, when the first version of the Spyder 5s was released, you couldn't composite out any of your function blocks or your folders like you could do on the classic Spyders. With the new upgrade that they have done for the Spyder 5 VAV controller, you can go back and composite these blocks out to see what blocks are linked to what. Also, one little tidbit for everybody is right here in your zone logic is where they have the TR42 set up. Once your controller is downloaded and online, you have some of these modules here, which is for your Silk bus. If you come in here and even if you select this and move it slightly, it's gonna look at it as a change. And for your Silk devices, you will have to go back and re-download your, reteach the controller again. And it will pop up with a warning to let you know that you have to reteach it, and you're back over here, it will come back and say that your controller is out of sync. For the controller itself, you have your onboard IOs here. This is where the physical parts are for the controller itself. These parts right here are actually not backnet parts. They are your physical parts for your controller that you would, when you write in your program, you would actually put in your backnet parts and then you would link them to these. Also, there is a service pin button on the front, on the top of your controller on any one of the Spyder 5 controllers. And with this service pin, you can actually write a piece of code and have this service pin to activate that piece of code for you. I have set up a fan coil unit where, a 3-speed fan coil unit where I've actually used that button as a test mode, where I can push that button, hold it down for a couple of seconds to activate that program to override and cycle through the different speeds to make sure that my motor is working. On this, you have to be careful as well. If you go in and take one of these and actually delete it, you cannot add any one of these back in one at a time. You will physically have to go back over to your IRM program, physical parts here, and then you would have to select that controller that you want, and then you would take and drag this and then drop it on there, and it will put all of these back. But once you do that, you would have to go back and relink each one of these that you've linked to parts of your program. So my program here is downloaded. Let me put my stuff back on here. So with this program that Honeywell has created, they have given you graphics that kind of resembles the old Venom graphics, but just looks a little nicer. So if you're familiar with the Venom apps for the VAV program, this is actually going to be pretty similar to that as well. They also went in and actually, if you right click on your controller, the schematic is this graphic that you see here. The application config view is where you would go to make changes to your controller setup. Zone config, CO2, if you have it, you can turn this on and off. Temperature controls, setting up what type of heating you have, if you have a fan, but if it's parallel or serial. Flow control for your K factor, duct area. And then the IO config is to configure your type of sensor. Also with this zone deal is if you have 30 or more of these controllers that you're putting in, you can designate one of the controllers as the target. Let me show you guys here. You can click here. If I had 30 more, I can set this controller as my source controller, which would wind up being my main controller. And then I can set all 29 of the other ones to target. So I did have a question. Can you use the aux sensor to control the VAV controller? Yes, you can. So this program that Honeywell do have here is actually set up to have a aux sensor in the program, so you can get it to set up if you're looking at doing occupying your unit and then basically telling it to go to a standby mode and then go back to occupied mode when you do that as well. So the back to the source and target. So your source controller is basically going to be your main controller. The target controllers will basically look at the program in your source controller, and it will copy that entire program out. So for your VAV controllers, though, as part of the configuration that Honeywell has done with their VAV program, they give you these little checkbox here, which is to for syncing. So if you have a controller and you've had your flow minimax set up, you can go back in and uncheck these right here. And then so when your controller goes in to copy whatever changes has been made or to copy that program from your source controller, it will bypass those settings. So you don't have to worry about overriding your flow set points or your K factor or duct area for any of those controllers. And then once it's done, if you no longer want it to do that, then you would just select the controller, and then you would set it back as none, and then it won't look at those your source controller for any changes or anything like this. This is really used for a great deal that if you have a bunch of these installed already, you want to add a new one, it's going to use the same program, set it as your target, and it'll go out and look for your source controller and make a copy of that program. Also with these controllers, if you have an issue or anything like that with your program, you can hit the clear controller, and it only gets rid of the program on the controller itself and not in your database over here off of your nav tree. All of this stays right there. With this controller also, you have the learn from controller. If you have done any of the classic Spyders or the VAV controller, you don't have a copy of the program and you try to learn that program, because that program was compressed before it was downloaded into the controller, it doesn't come back out with all of your lines and links and things like that. So it comes back and may just tell you function block 1, function block 2, function block 3. Whereas with the Spyder 5 controllers, when you learn from controller, it actually pulls the logic back out of your controller the way that it was set up originally. You also have download firmware here, so there is no separate tools or anything that you would have to use to download your newer firmware into the controller. So everything is all done here. You would just click this. It would ask you where you put the firmware at, and then you would just basically select your firmware, and then you would hit open, and then it goes through the process of downloading your controller. The good thing about that as well is if you have to download your new firmware into the controller and you have a program in it already, it will not delete your existing program when you're updating the firmware in the controller. As far as can you set up a custom temp sensor through IO config? I'm not really too sure about that yet. I have not attempted to set up a custom sensor. But the good thing is with this, with the system, Honeywell now, not only they're doing the NTC 20K ohm sensors, they are doing the 10K type 2 sensors, 10K type 3, and they're doing 1,000 ohm sensors as well. So you do have a more variety of sensors that you can use with the Honeywell controllers now. So one of the other deals as well is when you are creating set points or anything like that in your controllers, you have these little save blocks that you need to add to your set points or any values that you are gonna write to. Because if the controller is rebooted and it comes back up, those values won't be there in the physical BACnet parts anymore. So you do the save and then write back to your part. So when the controller is rebooted, then your save value would actually write back to the physical part that you have. So these are the BACnet objects that you can do. BACnet numeric input, Boolean input, numeric output, Boolean output, enumerated output, and then you have your BACnet values, the numeric values, Boolean values, and then you have your BACnet enumerated values as well. One of the cool features of the Spyder 5s that I like that they added is the reference in, reference out. If I I always use the outside air temp sensor. If I have a Spyder 5 located somewhere else that I have my temp sensor on, I can do a reference out from that controller and then do a reference in to the controller that I need that space temp to go to as well. And all of that is done through the BACnet network, is no longer having to go out through Niagara and then sharing it or link marking different parts to get your values in. So therefore, like if you have a Jace or something like that and that happens to go down, the controllers are still talk to one another through the your BACnet, and it share all of that information, so you don't have to worry about if you have a piece of logic that is dependent on that. You don't have to worry about that actually losing that, and then your program is no longer working the way it's supposed to. Now there are some more features and tools that Honeywell is working on. Like I said, they are working on a base for the controller itself, so you can use it for different fan core unit type unit heaters, and things along that nature. And then they are working on taking the Striker VAV program and converting it over to the Spyder 5 VAV controller, and still giving you the ability to program the controller and set it up through the TR75s, the TR120s, and things like that. With this controller as well, these backnet controllers, you can actually do schedules directly in the controllers themselves. So if you have any of those specs out there that requires you to do the scheduling and alarms inside of the controllers, these backnet controllers can actually do that. Does the VAV controller function allows measurement of energy saved utilizing the OCC functions? That one I would have to check and see. I know the controller itself, if you're talking about like doing like pulse metering and things like that, these controllers are capable of actually doing that as well. But I'll check on this question more in detail. With these controllers as well, you do have the full range of all of Honeywell's SIP devices. So right now, you do have two unitary style controllers. Spyder 5, you have a large, and then you have a smaller controller. And with those controllers as well, you do have on the unitary controllers, there are two RS-485 ports on there. One is used for the backnet, and the other one is designated for Modbus. So the controller itself can act as a Modbus master, where if you have a Modbus meter or a Honeywell VFD drive or any VFD drive that you need to communicate to through Modbus, you can actually pull that directly into that controller, the backnet controller, get it all set up, and then it only looks at that as one controller as opposed to two separate source controllers. That's everything that I had as a quick setup. So on Honeywell's building forms, if you have access to that, there is a folder that they have there that is designated for the Spyder 5 controllers, where you can get here, where you can actually get the software and tools, the different firmware, documentation, and the their app library for the current programs that they have for the Spyder 5 VAV controllers. Also check back here for any firmware updates as well. So, and that enables, you got one for the VAV controller, and then there's one for the unitary controllers. Honeywell right now is in the process of updating the tools for the unitary controller. Right now, when you download it, it is one module, but certain features of the module will come back and tell you that it can't use it because of the firmware right now, and that's mainly the other Silk devices. The Spyder 5 unitary controllers can only work with the TR42s right at this time. But as far as all the other modules, you can use them. If you download it and you've used some of the newer tools, it will come back and tell you that you're using newer tools than what the firmware is. Just go ahead and click OK, and it will still download the program into the controller. So right now, the Spyder 5 unitary controllers doesn't work with the TR120. That is part of the upgrade that they are working on right now. And that's part of their phase 3 for the Spyder 5s. But the Spyder 5 VAV controller will work with the TR120. And the program that I wrote for I wrote a fan coil unit program for the Spyder 5 VAV controller, and it is programmed for the TR120s. And also, every Tuesday, Honeywell has what they call a Tech Tuesday. Guy Zebrick is one of the front runners on everything Spyder 5s. And on the 18th, he has a more detail, which would be more about an hour, where he's gonna go through everything for the Spyder 5, the tools, the setup, and basically how to bulk deploy a lot of these controllers if you have more than 10 to 15, or if you're doing a large job where you have 64 to 75 controllers. He's going to show you how to basically quickly get all of that deployed, as opposed to having to do them one at a time the way I did. All right, this is pretty much the end. We have about 5 more minutes if there's any more questions. All right, so if anybody doesn't have any more questions, if you do have any more, if you do have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me in email or get in touch with your account managers, and they can forward that to you. If you're looking for any pricing on the Spyder 5 controllers, get with your account manager with your multiplier. But Honeywell's list price for the controllers is about $600. And then so you would just put your multiplier onto that and then see what your pricing is. So they are priced very, very competitive, and my little bit of time working with it, I can say that I actually really enjoy this controller. I love it. And this would be one of the controllers that I would recommend to everybody. So,
Hey, Demand, can you just type your contact information maybe in the chat to everyone so everyone can write it down if they need it?
yes.
A great turnout today. Thanks everyone for joining. I know there will be some ongoing topics each week on different topics, different vendor focus, different presenters. So stay tuned. Certainly, any of our valued customers on the line today, keep in touch with your account manager or the branch, and they can tell you what's coming up from a schedule wise. It should also be posted in our website, Building Controls and Solutions, or Amcon Controls. You should be able to find it either way. Demond, anything else you wanted to cover?
No, that's about it. We're, like Eric said, we're here to help if you guys need anything. The one thing I will add is that these programs here that Honeywell have, you guys can modify these programs. Their only requirement is if you modify them, you basically take ownership of that program. So I have modified one or two of them to work with TR40s, and then I'm working on the TR75s. Those are very easy to modify. So if you guys need any help, don't hesitate to reach out to me. So, all right, and I want to thank everybody again for attending.
Thanks, Demond. Thanks, Eric.
Bye-bye, everyone.